Who would win? 100 guys or gorilla?
Okay, I gotta ask. I'm glad you brought this up.
Hello, guys. Welcome to a new podcast slash talk interview. I'm gonna call it. This is not a podcast because I feel like everyone's making a podcast nowadays, and I just want to be kind of different and original. So I'm just calling this not a podcast. But anyways, I have a very special guest today, and it's one of my closest and one of my oldest friends I've known since about 13 years-ish. So crazy, isn't it? But man, I'm really excited for this episode, and I'm super stoked for it. So this is Nathaniel. We met online school and from middle school way back in Pennsylvania. And so, yeah, you want to introduce yourself, man?
Yeah, like you said, I mean it's been a long time. So I
It
think it
has.
was fifth grade or sixth grade
Sixth grade,
was
sixth grade.
when we first just started talking and everything. And then you moved off to Colorado afterwards.
Yeah.
So we haven't really. I think we met each other one time at a Hershey Park field trip.
I remember that. I remember
Yeah,
that.
so it's
We
it's been a very long time.
the craziest thing is we didn't like we saw each other. We didn't talk too much because it's just like, it's online school and this is our first time interacting with each other, so it's kind of awkward. So it's kind of hard to like communicate with each other. But nonetheless, I also remember seeing you afterwards real fast because I think I was waving at you when you guys were leaving, and then that was it.
Yeah.
I never saw this guy afterwards for the rest of like what 10 years. I've not seen this guy ever since. And it's
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's been so long. Also, I haven't talked to you in like almost what, 4, 5 years ago, I think. I haven't talked.
Yeah, it's been about half of that. Yeah.
But that's that's crazy. But how are you? How's life been? Been ages.
Yeah, I mean, doing good. Full-time work. Uh
Yeah, yeah.
Good old college dropout as of beginning of last year.
Oh no.
Um
Same. I mean, same.
but yeah, I mean everything's good. Got married last year. Um yeah, everything's
Gosh,
been kind of going.
congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome. It's been what you said, a year?
Yeah, in here in June it'll be about a year. So,
That's
yep.
awesome. Well, how's that going? How's the marriage life going?
It's been very good. We got a lot of the bumps out of the way early on, especially during like the engagement phase.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, it's been a good time and it's been a blessing and everything's worked out very well so far. So, we're just continuing to build that life together and, just see where it goes and keep it going.
Well, that's so awesome. That's awesome. Do you guys have like your own place, or are you trying to start like saving up for your own house and stuff like that, or
Yeah,
renting?
I just moved back a little bit over a year ago now, but we had a couple apartments out in Ohio. I had moved out there to work.
Right.
So we had a couple apartments that we lived at together out there, and now we're in
Cool.
with her parents, my in-laws, and we're just saving until we can buy a house and hopefully a
Smart.
fixer-upper and just build it up as we go. That way, it's a little bit cheaper to buy.
Yeah, the house market right now is insanely expensive right
Oh
now.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been trying to find some houses here that I could try to buy and renovate and then make it into like a apartment or condo, or make it into our Airbnb, so that way I can make
yeah,
some slow income back towards me. But I don't have the money for it, especially in Colorado where houses start from like 400, like $400,000 and up. It's insane. So
yeah.
Colorado is
See,
a very big booming state right now.
at least in my area, you can get kind of like you could get a decent place. Like I saw one, it was kind of it had a few acres and I think it had like a garage in that house, but everything would need redone. And that was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
around like 80, 90 grand. And then like
What?
you get some with like some more acres, and that's about like 160-ish or
No
so. So
way.
it's a lot cheaper here in
Oh
this area,
my
but
God.
there's not as many people and you're near a city. So
Yeah.
ours is a lot lower because I'm out and like I'm an hour south of Pittsburgh, so I'm not anywhere
Holy
near. the
Holy
city.
moly. That's insane. $160,000 for like a house and some good like acre, like a lot of land. That's insane. That's
Yeah,
nice.
I think the one in particular, it had like 5 outbuildings, like 15 acres, and just the whole
What?
house would need redone. But yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Oh man. Oh shoot, I might have to buy a house down there, honestly.
it's still a
Holy
lot of
crap.
money.
It is, but still it's a lot cheaper than being like in Colorado where
Yeah.
everything's just like it's insanely expensive. Like we have houses here that are actually up to like $6 to $7 million houses here.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of like custom homes and stuff around the
Mm,
area
mm,
that are worth a lot.
true. True.
Um, but it's not like as super of a common thing. You get that more like north of Pittsburgh and around the Pittsburgh area than you do
I was
down
about to say
here.
Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, maybe? I'm not sure about Philadelphia.
I'm sure there is like some areas outside of Philly. I'm sure there's
Okay.
plenty of homes because there's a lot of nice areas outside of Philly.
Right,
But
right.
yeah,
The topic that I really wanted to talk about is our past and our experiences with online schooling. So I'm gonna ask you some questions about it, and we'll just kind of like talk here and there about our opinions about it and whether it's like it help us succeed in life. First question, did you enjoy online school? Like personally, did you like it? Not really. Yes,
yeah,
I loved it.
I much prefer online schooling than in person because I've done both. I originally started
Mm,
out in public school. So doing online ended up having a lot of benefits. Um, like I could get away from all the drama and everything of in-person schooling and I could actually just
yeah,
focus on the work and learning and my education. And
exactly.
especially for like the area that I'm in, online schooling presented a lot more opportunity as far as education than any of the schools in my area. So it had a
Right,
lot of
right.
lot of benefits.
Yeah, yeah. I felt like online schooling really helped prepare myself for being like motivated to do my own work and having like time crunches on my own, being like I have to
Yeah.
finish this now, or if I don't finish it now, I'm going to suffer the consequences later. And I feel like in public school, the teachers really like move you to kind of like shove you to being like, hey, you need to get this stuff going. You need to do this, you need to do that. But in online school, it told you had to tell yourself to do those things. You had to, get those things done yourself. So you're more of like a more independent than dependent on your teachers to tell you those things. And that's
Yeah.
how I like really helped me out during college. Which is the next question is, did you think online school prepared you enough for college?
So I would say yes and no.
Mm,
Um, with the way that at least the school that we went to and the one that I switched to for high school, the way that the class structure was set up with live lessons and stuff like that, it was much more engineered towards preparing you for like college lectures and things like
right,
that because they did longer lessons. You'd have like a couple hours for a couple classes each day.
right.
And also even papers, like a lot of kids that go to public schools, by the time they graduate high school, they never wrote more than like a 2 or 3 page paper. And we were writing like 8 to 10 page papers on the regular.
I
Um,
remember that. That was insane.
so it definitely in the way that it was structured, it definitely set us up very well, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
Um,
oh yeah.
the one downside, well, two downsides.
Okay,
One is when I did go to college, originally was in person because I ended up switching to online afterwards because I got a full-time job and stuff, but I went to
right,
Purdue in
right,
person. And
right.
so one of the hard things was going back to in-person testing.
Oh yes. Oh my, the anxiety that I have during online
Yes.
te like in-person testing it was so hard for me to focus.
Yeah, and especially like I remember sitting in like calculus class specifically. That's the first one comes to mind. It was the worst because I'd sit there and like once a week they would give you 5 minutes to do a quiz on a handful of questions.
Oh my
And
gosh,
like
no.
I'm a relatively smart guy. I'm good at math, but that was not enough time. Like I just that's the one thing I struggled with is one, it's in person, and I'm seeing all
Yes.
these other people like that are used to this getting done within like 2, 3 minutes, answering all their questions and
Oh
turning it
my
in.
gosh.
And
Yes.
I'm sitting there at the end of the 5 minutes, and I think I've gotten through like two questions, and it's
Yes.
just awful, just
Oh
awful.
my gosh. Yes, yes. I like when I went to my freshman year of college, doing like my first quiz was so nerve-wracking. And like you said, everybody was just finishing. They're like 1 to 2 minutes, like 2 or 3 people would leave, and 5 minutes, another two people would leave, and 6 minutes, and so on and so forth. And I was like the last one, always the last one. And the teacher, I think my teacher felt so kind of bad for me because she knew that I was had an anxiety, and I was just like really, really like not focused. I was just really trying to get this quiz done. So she kind of let me get extra time, but then she kind of was like, "Hey, you gotta send your quiz in later." And then when I got the results, I missed a lot of questions. I got them
Mhm.
wrong, and so I would fail that quiz. A lot of my grades that was failing was the quizzes. Is all
Yeah.
those quizzes just completely knocking me down constantly. Testing like my regular like exams, I did pretty good on. It's just there was quizzes that really knocked me down a lot. And so that's how I had to like retake a couple of like mathematics classes, like pre-calc and calc one. I had to retake those because I could not do well on the quizzes. They're so bad for me. It's like I hated seeing other people going away, getting done with the quest tests, and I was just kind of like just beginning it. So that testing right
Yeah.
there, I was not used to.
And
Um,
and the big thing, like one of the other things was that like online school was really good about like if you didn't do too well, you could go to the teacher and you could be like, "Hey, this is something I'm struggling with," or "Hey, can I reattempt these questions and get some credit back?"
yeah,
But
yeah.
while that was really encouraged for us in online school, it's
It's not
not how
encouraged.
college works
Nope.
because and especially like where I went to Purdue, that's like top five engineering school in the world. And
Yeah.
so they don't care. They got a buttload of money from you. They do not care. There's like
Yep.
60,000 undergrad students. They don't care. If you go to them, they may help you, they may not. And there's no leniency at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
exactly.
that was a little bit of a struggle. And I think the only other thing from online school that was different whenever going back into a public setting was socialization. Like
Yeah,
I did I did
I was about to tell you that.
sports and stuff all through. Like I did sports and hung out with people from my local school.
Yeah.
I grew up with them. I was friends with a lot of them and stuff, but it was still interacting with people on a day-to-day basis that took me like almost a year to be fully comfortable with just like talking to random people or whatever, like in a public setting at school.
Wow,
um
it took you a year. It took me like 2 years to get used to all that.
yeah, which like everybody's like, oh, you do online school, you're not going to know how to socialize with people, which like I did to a point. Like I can get along with anybody and talk to anybody, but
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
definitely an adjustment from majority of the time just being home and maybe going to practices 2 or 3 nights out of the week for a couple hours with people.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's a big difference because now you're living with someone else and you're constantly interacting with a bunch of other
Right.
people. It's
Right.
very different.
Yeah, it's like like you said, being online schooling was like a comfort in a sense. So you feel comfortable where you're at, but then you are kind of like forced to go out and do things and
Yeah.
like talk to people, interact with them. It's like very nerve-wracking. You have like anxiety. You're kind of like, hopefully they like me kind of thing sometimes. Hopefully I said the right thing. And so you just kind of going down a spiral. It's hard to like communicate with other people when you just been online school for like pretty much your whole life in a sense. And so for me at least, because I have been online since yeah, pretty much since elementary because my parents kept moving back and forth to places, so I had to be online constantly. And that's the only school district that would kind of like accept us to be able for us to do catch up on school and catch up on the our curriculum studies because we kept moving constantly. So and it was just like when I went to college, my first freshman year, I was just like, I was so anxious. I was so nervous. I was just like, I didn't talk to anyone at all. I just would go to classes, my lectures, and I'll just go right home and I'll do my homework. And so it was very anxious for me. I think when it came to my sophomore or junior year, I think it was my kind of junior, I started feeling more comfortable with myself and being able to talk to everybody. I was like, okay, I feel a whole lot better, and I feel like I can talk to people a lot easier. Now, obviously, that take me a very long time. So, like you said, it's different for each person. But like you said, you've been in public school actually for like before, so you're used to doing that. So you're used to talking to people more so than I am. So I'm just like, it took me a really long time to get used to talking to
Yeah,
people and interacting with them.
and like even though like because I still went to like my local school's proms and stuff, like I still went to
Yeah,
events and
I
did
remember
sports
that.
and stuff, but it was in a really weird way, and I think the best way to put it is even though I still did all of that, it was like as if I was going to be a freshman in high school and learning the whole like social hierarchy and how everybody coexists and everything for the
Yeah.
first
Oh
time
my gosh,
is
right?
what college was like at the start. It was just like it I wasn't expecting that because again, I socialized a lot. I was always doing stuff outside of
Right.
school and everything. And so it was a very strange experience doing that and being like this all still feels very new and weird for some reason.
I kind of do miss that college life in a sense. I miss being busy and I miss doing those things like studying and doing assignments because it kept me busy. So,
Yeah.
because now all I do really is just play video games. I gotta work. So it's kind of like I don't have much of
Well,
a
it's
kind of like
there's a
interesting life.
yeah, there's a lot less structure now
Mm,
because you fall into a rhythm because of all the deadlines and things constantly.
yeah.
So it's not like there's not as much pressure, I would say, to stay structured and everything like that.
Ve- Very true, very true. And I guess I kind of miss that. For you, instance, do you miss that, or are you already busy with your career right now that you're like, okay, I'm at a good place in my life right now. I feel like I'm busy. I feel like I'm structured. I feel like I can, I feel like am happy where I'm at right now, and I don't want to go back to school at all.
So that's a very good question. So I work in IT now.
Okay.
But I worked out in our stores. So I work for a lumber company,
Okay.
and
Right.
so I've been with them for about 3 years, a little over 3 years. And
Right. Right.
so when I first started, I traveled for the company. I would go to stores that weren't doing so well operationally, and I would go fill in for people, or I would help out in their yards and get them back on track, basically fix any problems that they were having.
Right.
And I
Right.
did that for majority of the first year before working actually stationary in a store. I did that for about 3 months. Then I went to go be what's called a co-manager. It's assistant manager um, out in Ohio where I was for a little over a year. And I mean, my manager was never present. He ended up getting fired and everything. That was a whole big
Oh
ordeal.
gosh, what?
So I ended up managing that for majority of the time that I was there.
Oh,
And that
geez.
was that was it
Nice.
wasn't one of our biggest yards. I mean, it was about a $30 million operation
Okay.
yearly.
Okay.
So
Nice.
still kind of sizable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
and then went back into that traveling position early last year. I was actually working out in Bakersfield, California for about 4 or 5 months. We acquired another company and we were retaining their staff to train them.
Right.
So
Right.
I did that before taking this IT position. And like I originally went to college for cybersecurity. So
I remember that.
initially wanted to be in IT and now I'm in it. I'm in not necessarily exactly an entry level position.
Right,
I
right,
I'm a step above like all the help desk people and everything. Like they come to me and one other guy for our department to support the rest of the company.
right.
And then we work in pair with like programmers and business analysts and stuff. Um, but my company doesn't require a degree. And
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
so it's a struggle for me to want to go back to school because it is so much money and
Yes. Yeah.
there's a lot of extra things that I don't need like I went through 4 years in high school of taking English, history,
Yeah.
science classes, like all those electives.
Right.
Like I didn't do any of that in my college career yet. I haven't done any of my gen ed except for I think a couple English courses or something like that.
Okay. Right.
I
Right.
did mainly core specific classes. So I can't, even though I'm a junior and have credits to where I'm almost technically a senior, because I haven't done those gen eds, I can't even transfer that into an associate's yet.
Oh gosh,
So I've
what?
spent like on and off about 5 or 6 years trying to get a bachelor's degree and
Right.
have gone in so much debt for it and
My
still can't
gosh.
even
Yeah.
transfer it to what's equivalent to a 2 year degree. So
Oh my
it's very hard
gosh.
for me to even want to do it, especially when
No,
my company doesn't require it. Me getting it
right.
won't get me like a pay raise or a better position or
Yeah,
anything.
exactly. So there's no purpose of getting a degree at this point because you're good at where
Right.
you're at right now. And like you said,
And
your company
so
doesn't need a degree. So yeah.
yeah. So I mean it would merely be purely personal to do it. And I'd like to eventually just because I've invested so much into it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm not going to take any more loans. I'll pay for the rest as I can, do it as I can go, and
Exactly.
maybe finish it. I still haven't decided if I'm going to do that or not. But
Yep.
I'm happy with the job that I have. It's a very good job. It pays well, but I'm a very ambitious person, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to keep climbing, working my way up, making more money, getting a better position, supporting the company and the business and everything. So, I always want to keep climbing, keep getting more and doing more. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm satisfied, but there's still a want to keep going.
That's amazing. I love how you have your ambitious values so up high that it's really inspiring for sure. Because like for me, I spent 4 or 5 years also in college. I got my associate's degree in computer science. So and look at the two perspectives here. So me just being at home gaming, I also do have a job. It's at retail. And then it's just like it's not I don't like my job really, obviously, because it's retailing. So, but like it's interesting. It's interesting interesting to see two perspectives where we have someone that he did go to college, but he never got a degree. But look at where he's at right now. He's at an IT position and he's like getting a good pay for what he's doing. But then look at a person like me who went to college for who has an associate's degree in computer science, but he's still working at retail. So it's really interesting to see two perspectives of like how life is going so far, how life is. And
Yeah,
it's like college isn't for everybody. Clearly, if
right.
like look at where we're at right now, like it's not for everyone, and you don't necessarily need a college degree to get a good paying career. You could go solely off of college degree and build yourself up. Like you said, ambitious values. You build yourself up higher and higher, and then you're at the very top of your game right there. And so, I think that's the most like inspirational, and that's what I think where a lot of students fail at is that they think if I do get a degree, I'll be immediately getting into a career job where I want and I'll be making like 80 90 K a year. But they start to figure out like that's wrong. And these people have spent like thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars on the degrees where they have nothing left. They don't have a job anymore. And it's also hard to get into a career job at the moment. The job market's terrible right now as well. So and it's really cool to see that. And I congratulate you for that. That's very amazing that where you're at, and you should be very proud of that for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think a lot of people entering the college space or currently in college are starting to realize that it's not everything that it was talked up to be. Because, like,
Yeah, exactly.
especially like around our time, I'm sure maybe your parents kind of did the same. I know mine did. Was
Yeah.
if
Yes,
you
they
want a
did.
good job and you want to be successful in life, you need
Yep.
to go to college. You need to go to a good college. You need to go pursue a good, worthwhile degree to then get a good
Exactly.
job. But you end up starting getting into it and you're like, well, I'm spending a ton of money. A lot of the stuff that I'm spending this money on provides no value. And whenever I get to the end of that college life, I'm realizing,
Right.
okay, well, I need to do internships. And certain internships you can't do unless you have some prior experience. Or to
Right.
get
Right.
into a position with the company, you need to have prior experience. and they're very picky with their hiring processes.
Oh, very,
And
very.
it's a difficult thing to penetrate and get into. And people who
Isn't it?
have they have a false expectation of, oh, if I just follow this path, it's just going to work out and I'm going to go make six figures getting straight out. And that couldn't, I mean, for some people, sure, maybe, but
Yeah.
for majority of people, that is so far from realistic in the truth of how it actually is.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrible. It's a horrible way of how to start and preparing for your future because a lot of people just put so much time and effort into it and money, and then they just find out that it's not what they want, and it's sad to see it, really. But all right, so got a little sidetracked there. My apologies, but did want to ask you. We were somewhat in this similar conversation, so I'm pretty proud about that because
Yeah,
honestly, with my
yeah.
brain, I would have been like, if you want to talk about the single slightest little thing, I would have grabbed that and talked about it right there over here, and then we'll be way off again. So, but I got another question for you. So, during our online schooling, like when we are in CCA, who was your favorite teacher?
So, I would say Mr. Giantini, if you remember him.
I remember you asking him so many questions. Well, I remember specifically you asking him, how many tattoos do you have? And he said he couldn't answer that because obviously reasons, like you're a kid and he doesn't want to be influ he doesn't want to influence kids
Yeah,
tattoo.
yeah. Now,
And then look at you right now. So yeah, tell me why he was your favorite teacher.
so I actually didn't remember asking him anything about that. But I used to ask questions to people all the time. Like I enjoy talking to people. Um, so um, one of the little side ventures I've had while in college is I actually wrote and self-published a book. And
Remember that?
so back in middle school, like I've always really enjoyed writing and everything. And so I started a short story, and him and I would have like one-on-one meetings to kind of go over it and critique and work on writing, and he would give advice and stuff like that. So in a weird way, it actually prepared me to go write my book and
Right,
publish it
right.
and everything else like that. So that was probably the he was probably the one I interacted with the most out of anybody, just outside of regular coursework.
Right, right. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think my favorite teacher though was Mr. Kurt Amen, our
Yeah.
science teacher. He was so engaging and he was so enthralled and so like happy to teach us and show us what he knew. And I just like really was inspired by him. And so he really actually inspired me to take chemistry in college. But then I remember Mr. Kurt Amen, he was teaching us about balancing chemical equations. And I was
Yeah.
just like, oh shoot, this is interesting because he made it interesting. So
Yeah.
I'll see you, Mr. Kurt Amen. I would love for you to get on this little podcast thing. So shout out to you. And if I can, I'll try to contact you and hopefully we can get one started. So if you could change something about CCA back then, what would you change?
Um, this is actually a very serious answer. So near the end of my time there, there ended up being a large influx of students. So
Okay.
it became very difficult for teachers to manage all of those students that they were getting. And it was a lot harder to get like tutoring or like one-on-one time
Yes.
to go over
Yes.
things. And it was
Yes.
like almost impossible.
It was practically impossible.
Yeah. So that would have been like, and I don't know, like I understand, back then, we were just kids, but
Yeah,
thinking out
exactly.
about it now, like, okay, well, could you have done another satellite office, or could you have hired more staff, or could you
Yeah,
increase your office space, like those kind
exactly.
of things. But those are very expensive things that require a lot of footwork. So,
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. I would agree with that for sure. I think I personally struggled some classes when it came to online, so I felt like, having a tutor would help me a lot. And so, but obviously, like I said, CCA wasn't really a big school. It was a very small online school. I think it was in Scranton, PA. So
Yeah,
the office was, or one in Harrisburg. So they're very small schools, and the funding wasn't that much into online schooling. And back then, it was kind of more of like going to public or private schools, and it wasn't really going
right.
to online schools. Now I feel like it is more going to online schools now, which is great. But back then, they had no funds when it came to online schooling. So I definitely agree with that question for sure, that answer. Well, that was really fun and having you on this little podcast today. I really appreciate you coming on here. Thank
Yeah,
you
thanks
for
for
letting
having me.
me, yeah, no problem. Thank you for letting me you on here, and I do appreciate that. I do have one more question, so it's a very serious question. Who would win? 100 guys or gorilla?
Okay, I gotta ask. I'm glad you brought this up because I keep seeing this everywhere and I have no idea what the context is. Like what's going on?
Okay,
What is
so
it?
a lot of people think 100 men could take down one gorilla, like one big, like we're talking about Harambe type
Well,
gorilla.
bruh, it depends on the people. Like if you assemble a squad of Earth's mightiest humans, like you get a couple strongmen in there and
Yeah,
some stuff,
yeah,
they might have a shot, right? But
right, right.
if you're just doing your average rinky-dink hillbillies and it's like just straight up duking it out, nah, they're getting thrashed.
I
You
love the
know,
hillbilly part.
yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
go get
just
this gorilla right here, and then just immediately get sucker punch and he's out. Oh, goddamn, Jeff is out.
yeah, just grab him by his wrist and just
Yeah, it's
wing
like
him.
just
Like
bring him out.
it's
Very
gonna be
okay.
like Hulk and Avengers just picking him up and smashing him around or
Yeah,
beating him into other
exactly.
people. Like I don't. I mean, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that is the perfect answer. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I agree. Like, honest, it's the type of men that we're putting into the ring with one gorilla. So, obviously if we have like scrawny kids, scrawny men like me or like some other guys, they'll obviously lose for sure. But if we have like,
Yeah.
big muscle, like build bodybuilders, then yeah, I do think they could take down a gorilla. Now, did you say grills are very, 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 very strong? They can rip tires like easily, like just rip them off. So, and you can't see a bodybuilder ripping a tire. You cannot see a guy doing that.
I
So,
mean, they have a lot more like strength per pounds,
yeah,
um, and they're also incredibly fast too. Like
they are.
it's
They
not
are.
like they're
So,
slow big lumberers. Like
and you
they're
have to think
quick.
like The Rock, he's going to be kind of slow. So, I feel
Yeah.
like a gorilla could just smack him and he'd be knocked out. And then, John Cena's next up and he smacks him and then just on him and he's out. So, you see, it's a tough question. It really is, but I
I
do
mean,
like
like
your
I
answer.
feel like eventually there could just be an overwhelming power,
Very
like
true.
eventually overwhelm it. But like, I mean, that's difficult.
That is true. Like we're not putting one by one The Rock. All right, he's down. John Cena, he's down.
Right.
Roman Reigns, he's down. No, we're taking all of them out, like all of them into the pit with the gorilla. So fair, very true. I really like that answer. Well, I do appreciate you guys for watching this, and I do appreciate Nathan for being here. Thank you again. If you guys like it, make sure to let me know, like and subscribe to the channel. And if you guys have any other questions or any topics that you guys want to talk about, let me know. I have some other ideas too that incorporate Nathan to another podcast. So if you guys do enjoy having him on here, I would love for him to be on here again and we can make this happen again. So thank you so much for guys for joining the This Is Not a Podcast. I love that thumbs up thing. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast or video. So take care, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Do you want to say anything before we leave?
I'd love to come back because I used to have my own podcast and I miss it very, very much.
I was about to. I'm so sorry. Yes, he had a podcast before. Please tell us the title.
And so it was called New Perspective, and it was our group was called LTC. There was three of us that did it. And it's actually the episodes and our stuff are still out there on multiple platforms and on YouTube. We also did like tier lists, and we started dipping into some YouTube videos and stuff.
It's nice.
But yeah, we did that for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. I think we did it. We had a pretty good run of it.
So, well, yeah, guys, please go check him out. I will link the all of his podcast information in the description. So, thank you guys
Ooh,
so much for watching and listening, and thank you for coming on again. So,
yeah.
thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Peace out.